Hello, I'm Steve, an accredited psychotherapist. In today's video, I want to explore some of the reasons why we worry. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever been told that you're worrying too much about things? Maybe people say comments like, stop worrying about it, relax, like, why are you worrying so much? Have you ever hearing things like that from maybe some of your colleagues or friends or family? It could be that there are actually some positive beliefs that you have about worry that are actually causing you to worry and keep worrying. So today's video, we're going to look at this kind of fascinating topic really, and some of the really common positive beliefs that we often see in excessive worrying, and see whether there's any that you feel resonate with yourself. Now, on the topic of beliefs, we all have positive beliefs, negative beliefs, neutral beliefs about all sorts of things, about ourselves, about other people, about how the world works. So we all have certain beliefs that we have about these things. And some of these beliefs can be very realistic and fair and reasonable and quite helpful. But then sometimes some of these beliefs can also be quite rigid and maybe unreasonable or unrealistic or very unhelpful. And in terms of worry, there can be some really stubborn beliefs that we can hold, that we can have had for much of our lives. And it's these the ones that we want to work on, because these are the ones that are causing us to keep worrying. There's something about worrying that feels important and feels necessary to us, which is why we're doing it. We're not daft. We do things with good intentions. We do it for good reasons. So there's something driving our excessive worrying about things. And this leads us to some of these common positive beliefs that we hold about worry, which might be keeping you stuck, making it difficult for you to be able to relax with some of the worrying thoughts that you're having and be able to stop worrying so excessively. Now, a certain level of worry is reasonable and helpful and adaptive and very useful for us. But what we're talking about today, we're talking about excessive worry. We're talking about the stress and maybe the anxiety that can come from our worrying about things. This is what we're really kind of focusing on. We want to reduce that. So we're going to look at some of those positive beliefs that maybe are hindering your ability to worry less. A common positive belief can be that worrying shows that I care. Sometimes people think that if I worry a lot about loved ones or people in my life, that sort of shows or demonstrates that I care or that I love them. And sometimes there'll be throwaway comments, things like, yeah, that's me, I'm a worrier, I'm the one that I care about everybody, I'm worrying about people, and we're associating this idea that worrying demonstrates this love and this care. And there might be the alternative belief as well to that. It could be that if I don't worry about lots of people or the people in my life, then that shows that I'm uncaring. Nobody wants to be uncaring. So again, sometimes there can be this mistaken link or association between worrying and caring. And I guess just some food for thought, that if worrying shows that we care, then does that mean that anyone working in the caring professions, nursing, doctors, any of the emergency services, paramedics, armed forces, things like that, does that mean that because they don't worry so much, does that mean they're not caring? Or if they are caring people because they're in those professions, then why do we not see them worrying so much? Surely they would be the biggest worriers in the world. We don't see that. So I guess this is some food for thought to question that belief that you might have if you are one of those people who have this association between worry and care. Another belief that I often see is that worry is some form of motivator, that it motivates me to reach my goals or to sort things out or to do things that are necessary. So it's this kind of motivating element to things. But unfortunately, what we can sometimes see is that this worry can actually kind of debilitate us. It can paralyze us. We can find that we can procrastinate, which is where we kind of get very sort of stuck with being able to move forward. So actually what I sometimes see in practice is that actually the worrying element, it actually isn't as motivating as we think. And I guess some food for thought here could be that, do you know anybody in your life who is very motivated, whether it's going to the gym or being active or within their workplace or their career progression or whatever it might be? Do you know anybody who's a very motivated person, that isn't so worrisome? Does it mean that everyone who is super motivated must be the biggest worriers because that's how they are so motivated? If that's not the case, then it maybe shows us that the worry maybe isn't the necessary component for being able to be a motivated person. Another common belief I see is that worrying helps me prepare and sort of problem solve. And this is really common because what people sometimes think is that if I worry a lot about lots of different possibilities of things that might happen, that it will help them be able to take certain actions and problem solve the situation so that they can, act in a very positive way. What we sometimes see in actuality is that sometimes we can be so consumed with our worry that actually it really hinders and paralyzes us to be able to prepare or to problem solve. And I see this a lot with things like studying, or setting up for a deadline, or preparing for an interview. That sometimes excessive worrying can actually cause us to have like sleepless nights. It can make it really difficult to actually get involved in some of the studies, or we find that we're kind of procrastinating, and it can make it very difficult actually to be able to get the things done that we need to get done, because we're worrying so much about things. So it actually can sometimes be a very big hindrance actually on problem solving. Worrying can feel very overwhelming and make us feel very stuck and very distracted. And we can also find that we're spending so much time worrying about all the possible things to feel prepared for that actually none of those things might come true, those worst case scenarios, or maybe one eventuality might happen, but I've prepared for, say, 20 different things. And so I spent a lot of time and energy and stress thinking of all these different things that could happen as a way to prepare, which actually maybe actually not very useful for me, and actually have caused me a lot of stress along the way. So I guess some food for thought would be, thinking about people in your life. Do you know anyone who is an organized person who maybe generally is quite prepared for things and doesn't struggle with, worrying a lot about things? How does that make sense? That conflicts with that belief if we know people who are able to do that? Are you mistaking the worry that's in our head or in our minds with actually doing something and taking the action that we need to do? Another belief that we might see is that worry protects me from negative emotions. And this is a bit like kind of thinking that worry is like putting money in the bank. It's like, so like if I worry about certain things, then I will not be as bothered about them if they happen later on. So this idea that by worrying, I will somehow not be as affected by that negative thing happening because I've already seen it coming, or I've already thought about it potentially happening. So I guess if this were true, then does that mean that if I was to worry a lot about the potential harm of my family, or them becoming injured or dying, that then if I worry enough about it, if it was to happen, I wouldn't be as bothered about it. I wouldn't be upset, or I wouldn't be troubled or distressed by that because I've already spent so much time worrying about it. I don't really believe that to be true. I think I'd still be upset if my family got hurt. So how effective does worry kind of in protecting us from negative emotion? Actually, how much damage does that worry kind of cause in thinking about these potential things happening as well, which might never happen? So just some food for thought here. And I guess, have you ever worried about something and then it happened and you weren't upset? Or were you still upset? So does this sort of shed some light maybe on this belief to sort of dispel it or to challenge it? And lastly, another positive belief that we might see is the idea that worrying can prevent bad things from happening. If I think about the worst case scenario, that either that by the act of that worrying thought will negate or take away the chance of that bad thing happening, a bit like what we'd call kind of magical thinking, the idea that my thoughts have some sort of power to change the future or change the reality. Or the other thing is that sometimes what people can have is that our worrying then creates habits or healthy behaviours that can stop that worst case scenario happening, to prevent that bad thing happening. And again, in that sort of sense, what we can sometimes see is that we can sometimes adopt habits that are maybe not so healthy. So I guess some food for thought might be just to think about some of the behaviours that you might be doing if you're worrying. Are they actually helping with the worry? Are they reducing the worry? Or are they helping with the situation? Or are they creating maybe some unhelpful habits? Are they exacerbating the worry, making things worse? Are you finding that you're doing what we call kind of certainty-seeking behaviours or safety behaviours, things that make you feel safe in the short term, but maybe they don't help so much in the long term? And in terms of that magical thinking, I mean, if magical thinking were true, I mean, I join the lottery every week. I love the idea of winning the jackpot, and I imagine winning the jackpot all the time, but unfortunately, I'm yet to win it. So I guess how powerful really are our thoughts in that sort of respect? So here we have it. Here are some of the really common positive beliefs we might have about worry that might be driving us to keep worrying. Hopefully you found that helpful. Feel free to reflect on each of these, see whether they sort of resonate or they fit with yourself. Again, this is only part of the process. Within therapy, we like to look at what's underneath here, what's driving some of our worrying behaviours, worrying thought patterns, and also we look at some really useful resources of ways to change our relationship with our thoughts and our worries, and maybe some healthier behaviours that can maybe help us. So this is one part of the puzzle, I guess. But I hope you found that helpful. If you enjoy this video, feel free to like it. If you found some of this content helpful and you've used it, then please feel free to share this with other people. Feel free to comment on the video if you found it helpful, or if you have any questions about this topic. And if you are liking the content I'm putting out, then please feel free to subscribe. Take care. Have a lovely day.